Yes, you are now listening to the sounds of Sports
Reports is ordered.
So, yo, tonight, you know what it is. The official brackets. It's time.
Shout out to CBS.com.
Is here. And also here with me is the even-keeled, Virginia-born, New Jersey's own stand-up, Teaneck, Brick City, Millville, Patterson, everywhere in between, Turnpike, and even down to Philly.
Lean on Me, Sopranos, all of that.
All that. Don't bring feelings to a fact fight.
You know the vibes.
He is Mr. Logical. I am your unorthodox statistician. I am Mr. Get your shit together and keep it together. I am Mr. I said what I said, not what you think I said. You know what I'm saying? I am 2-5. And we're also going to talk about a little Justin Fields tonight. So let's check in. We usually started off with get it off my chest, but not tonight.
The madness is here.
Brackets are too important. So let's hop right to it. So, Mr. Logical.
I'm listening.
Last year, we started off Sports Reports as ordered. Right around, we were in the middle of the NFL playoffs.
Yep.
And I had my eye on one thing and one thing only, and it was the madness.
Skipped over everything else. I
came down with it. Everybody brackets went kaput because for some reason they were still trying to believe in Arizona last year, even though I told them not to. We got to the Elite Eight. I had 4 of the Elite Eight. So I was smelling myself. I just knew I was going to bring this thing home. And all 4 of them lost in the Elite Eight. All 4 of them. But I still took solace in the fact that I did better than y'all.
I did pretty solid last year. I did a poll with a good friend of mine that I was in tech school with back in the day. My boy Rob Avila, I call him Rob the Mexican. So he hits me up for a lot of these tournaments. $10 buy-in. It was like maybe 17 to 18, 20 people, and somewhere in that range. So I put my bracket together. I think I got first because it was so chaotic that at the end it was like I think we divided up like amongst the top 3 people. I got my $10 back, and I think I got like maybe 70 or 80 more dollars or something like that. But it was crazy. I said, you and I were having these conversations. And like I said, you are the resident college sports unorthodox statistician, all of that goodness. So I just always followed your lead. Sometimes when I pick my bracket, it gets to the point where it's like, I do little stuff like I'll just pick a team just because they're in Virginia. If it's reasonable, like Longwood right now against Houston. I've been in Longwood. I had a couple summer field trips there. It was dope. I had a great time. I watched a dude get fired on his day off after Friday came out.
Yeah.
Yo, that was probably one of the funniest things I've witnessed in my life. But I wouldn't pick Longwood to be.
One of my favorite NBA players of all time went to Longwood.
Who?
Jerome Kersey from the Portland Trail Blazers.
Oh, stocky dude, no biceps, just always.
Yep.
I remember 25. Yeah, I remember him.
Yep, that was my guy. He went to Longwood.
He was there when Jordan shot 7 threes in the first half.
Yeah, that's the only reason I know who Longwood is. The Lancers, by the way.
Remember, I rock rough and stuff with my Afro puffs. Queen of Rage, she was from Longwood. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
What I'm saying? You learn something new every day on Sports Reports as ordered. But so I was looking at the bracket this year, yesterday after Selection Sunday. And then I felt like everybody else last year because I was like, I have no idea what's going to happen here. Like, I was trying to look at the bracket, and I figured out that being the overall number 1 seed is not an advantage because I would think that if you're the overall number 1 seed, you would have the easiest bracket. UConn does not have the easiest bracket. As I look at their 2, 3, and 4 seeds, you got teams that won their conference tournament. Their 11 won their conference tournament. Their 5 was in the Final Four in the national title game against UConn last year. Their 8, who they could match up with in the second round, was in the Final Four last year, and they bring back their top 6 scorers. You know, I look at number 10. Number 10, before the season even started, I got on 2-5 Daily, and I said, look out for Drake this year. Drake is going to be the FAU of this season. They're in UConn's bracket. Iowa State, as that 2 that I mentioned, just beat Houston by about 30. So if UConn makes it back to the Final Four this year, it's going to partially be because of home court advantage, because the first 2 rounds are in Brooklyn.
But I don't know if that home court advantage outweighs the gauntlet they got to run through. Yeah.
I mean, the good news is they don't have to play all of them.
But it's a possibility you can play a couple of them.
Yeah, it's a possibility you can play a couple.
Possibly you can play a couple, and if you can play a couple of them, that's the problem.
The regional finals in Boston. So when I was looking at this bracket, I thought to myself, okay, I got FAU against UConn in the second round. And FAU is averaging 83 points a game. Like I said, top 6 scorers are back from their Final Four run last year. I think they slept through the season this year. They were bored. They made it to the Final Four. They changed conferences into the American, and they were just like, let's just get to March. That's what I think FAU did this year. So I think the best of FAU is yet to come. But then when I look at the Sweet 16, if it all holds up the way that I'm thinking that it holds up, Auburn reminds me of last year's UConn team, you know, with the athleticism, you know, just straight domination. Like this season, Auburn has 27 wins, 26 of them by double digits. So that's
how are they a 4 seed?
Because they have 7 losses.
But 7 losses. But if you think about it, like I said, you're the statistician. I'm the person who kind of looks at it like just, you know, logically. I got a team. You said 27-7.
27-7, and 26 of their wins.
26 of their wins by double digits.
Yes.
As I look, like I said, we look at the brackets 1 through 16, and it goes so.
Right.
The 2 seeds essentially are your 5, 6, 7, 8 teams out of the 68. With the first 4, all that, you know, all the stuff we'll get into later.
Right.
So at Auburn, that's so they're like 13, 14, 15, 16. So that's they're like, if you rank them 1 through 16.
Well, you would like to think that they're the lowest 4 because they're in UConn's bracket. So you would like to think that they're the 16,
lowest
probably.
4, but like 27-7, pretty much
you know,
dominating
also,
every win. Unless all 7 of your losses are by like double digits.
Well, there's also like strength of schedule and stuff like that factored in as well. So like looking at Auburn, they went 13-5 in the SEC, finished second, and they're 4th seed. Kentucky, on the other hand, tied with them 13-5, beat them head to head. You know, they're a 3 seed. South Carolina, 13-5. Auburn beat them by 20 twice. South Carolina's a 6 seed. You know, Alabama, 13-5 in the SEC. They're a 4 seed. So, like, there's no method to it as far as this is where you finished in your conference or anything like that. A lot of it still incorporates strength of schedule. It incorporates the net ranking. It incorporates a lot of other factors, non-conference schedule, so on and so forth.
Seems like they let AI. Seems like they put into some kind of program and they kind of spit it out with some math.
Yeah, they didn't use ChatGPT because they probably use Grammarly.
Or something.
Yeah.
I mean, ChatGPT is legit.
You know,
I read my emails with it.
So as I was looking at this, I think Auburn could give UConn their first resistance, if you will, on the way to the Final Four. Later down in the bracket, I got Duquesne upsetting BYU. I got Drake upsetting Clay Thompson University. And the crazy thing about it is that this is Washington State's first time in the tournament since 2008, which is the year before Clay Thompson. So Clay Thompson never even played in the NCAA tournament.
16, 17 years?
Yeah. And they won the Pac-12 this year, the regular season. So there you go. I got Iowa State advancing. So I got Drake against Iowa State in the second round.
So Drake is your so you got Duquesne and Drake is your double-digit seeds advancing out of that bracket.
And then I have Drake, by the way, in Des Moines, Iowa, meeting up with Iowa State in the second round. And I got Tucker DeVry, leading his team to the Sweet 16. But it doesn't stop there. Saying I got him knocking off Illinois.
And so you got Drake as this year's quote-unquote Cinderella.
Yes, last year.
But you don't really like the Cinderella. You like the Cinderella up to the Sweet 16, right?
No, I love the Cinderella. No, America.
Fans don't like the.
Yeah, America wants Cinderella the first weekend, and then they're like, "All right, now you can bow out.
Give me the Blue Bloods."
I just say, step on the basketball court, and whoever wins, wins, and I'm good with that. But everybody else was doing the whole, we don't want San Diego State, we don't want FAU, and then LSU and Iowa came through and crushed the buildings and everything. Yeah. So
I think these kind of one and done tournaments really set the tone to just kind of combat the argument that whatever sporting organization is rigged. Because if I'm NCAA and I'm like, okay, what's the best outcome for me? The best outcome for me is UConn playing Iowa State. It's North Carolina playing Arizona. It's 1 versus 2 in every bracket.
Well, you know what's crazy?
It's maybe 1 or 2 upsets, and then it kind of playing out like chalk all the way through. Because the idea is, a lot of teams because we talk about the regions where they play. We talked about, okay, UConn's playing in Brooklyn, and then they're playing their regionals. If they make the Sweet 16, which likely is possible, they're playing in Boston. So the NCAA set it up to where, for the most part, 3 or 4 of the number 1 seeds are going to be playing close to where their fan base is. So it is set up deliberately. It's not rigged, but it is set up deliberately. So when you have Cinderella teams that kind of come through and crush the buildings, like Snoop did in New York, you can kind of that's the part that the people who feel like, oh, this is a setup. If you get Drake pushing through in the East and they're playing UConn, it's like, okay, that's what you want to prove. It's like, okay, this isn't rigged. This is real people. You roll the ball out there, you jump it off, and you see who can really win these games. I think that's why the NCAA tournament is probably one of the, aside from the NFL playoffs, I think the NFL playoffs, because it goes for so long and so many teams,
right,
and people are already kind of inundated and locked into the NFL already throughout the season. But from now until April 8th, this is going to be the talk of every office all over the country.
Water cooler talk. Yeah, this
water
is my
cooler conversation.
Yeah, so Drake is my big upset, if you will. I got him going to the regional final against UConn, where they're going to get absolutely smoked. But last year, Drake played Miami in the first round. Miami, who ended up in the Final Four. And they had an 8-point lead with about 5 minutes left. Miami erased it because Tucker DeVry, who I just mentioned, went 1 for 13 in that game. So, as long as he doesn't crap the bed, I feel pretty safe, at least that they'll get out the first round. But looking at this bracket, you also, like I said, you have FAU and San Diego State, who joined UConn in the Final Four. The selection committee
3 out of the 4 Final Four teams in one bracket this year.
Yeah, and they said, the committee said, not this year. Miami wasn't good enough to make the tournament this year, or else they probably would have been in this bracket too. So yeah, I got UConn coming out of the East region. So what you
I mean,
got?
I mean,
You got UConn?
it makes sense. Like I said, I'm still like kind of piecing my information together.
Yeah.
I probably make my like final choices tonight before the tournament starts. It's so much information, and I
It
always want
is.
to do. I always tend to go with a couple like different philosophies that like right now, as you see me looking off to the left, I'm looking at the bracket. I always pick a 12 versus 5. I pick a
Mm-hmm.
12 to beat a 5 probably in every bracket.
Mm-hmm.
But this year is like, do I have that matchup? Is it chalk? Is it set up to where we don't get the Cinderella? Because
We'll see.
like I said, I don't know if I think it's captivating TV for a team like granted Northern Iowa isn't in the tournament this year, but when they are in the tournament, they pick these teams. I remember like South Dakota State, the Jackrabbits. That's why I know who they are because like 12 years ago they had the guy catch fire. We talked in our preview. We talked about North Carolina. Their leading scorer is their point guard. In this one and done scenario, I think the coach says, you know what? We're not worried about the offense. You're hot. Get him to the hoop. Get him to the line. Get him open. Let him do his thing. And I think that's one of those like one of these elements that like always kind of deter me as far as my picking. Last year we had the 16 beat the one. Shout out to Fairleigh Dickinson, FDU, Teaneck, New Jersey. We in the building.
Yes,
But
sir.
I don't see in the East. I don't see Stetson beating UConn.
No.
Yeah.
Even though Blackman did have 43 in the conference title game, like that 43 still ain't going to be enough.
You got like in order to like if you can catch fire because you know this is a name that you only really hear during the tournament. He was in the NBA for a while, but Wally Zerbiak,
Mm-hmm.
Miami of Ohio, when he caught
Mm-hmm.
fire, obviously Steph Curry caught fire. He was dropping, but this is before I remember distinctly like the year after Davidson caught fire. I remember seeing a lot more of these smaller schools
Mm-hmm.
on TV. And to me, I felt like the NCAA was like, hey, we can't have Oakland beating Kentucky in the
Right.
tournament. We need
Right.
to put Oakland on TV. We need to let the Kentucky coaches and players and we need to see these schools. We need to see Akron. We need to see, Mount, St. Mary's and Grand Canyons and stuff. They were just putting their regular conference games on TV. And I think what it did was it kind of limited the surprise. So now you just really, with the transfer portal and everything else, you got a guy that's, he's at Kentucky, he's riding the bench. Well, I'm gonna transfer to Kentucky State, or hypothetically, some other school, and it's like this dude's capable of dropping 40 on you, and if they make the tournament, they get a
Mm-hmm.
good run. So I think a lot of it is because they want the traditional 1, 2, 3, 4 to advance and the ones and so forth and so on. We talked about it before last time. All ones made it was what year? You said it earlier.
2008 was when all
2008.
four, and also back to your rigged point. I'm pretty sure we would have got a North Carolina Duke Final Four matchup at some point. We got it the year that Coach K, it was his last year. But prior to that, those two teams had never met in the Final Four. Like
Yeah.
we would have definitely got that. Like
So
we would have
that's
got
the
that in the
that's the
national
beauty.
title game. That would have been
Yeah,
a national.
that's the beauty of one and a one, that's just a testament to like how tough it is to be a top collegiate program.
Yeah,
But
it's tough to win 6 games in a row.
UConn definitely got a very difficult bracket. Even if it's not even if you did the math, because you're gonna bring up a stat later. We talked about it. That kind of supports the fact that UConn is in a very difficult bracket. And the pundits that I've been watching to get kind of collect information, they said the same thing. It was like for number one overall seed to have this bracket is very tough. If you look
It's just wild.
across, it's just 3 out of 4 previous teams in the Final Four to include the number one seed, and
Yeah.
then you have teams that like how many won their conference at 4?
Yeah, they're 2, 3, and 4. won their conference championship. Their 11 won their conference championship. And then obviously you got your lower seeds that won their title, but I'm not even counting them.
Yeah.
So then now I'll go to the West, since that's who the winner of the East would play in the Final Four. So let's just keep it standard there. So North Carolina is your 1 seed, with Arizona as the 2, Baylor as the 3, and Alabama as the 4. So when I look at this side of the bracket, I'm interested in the second round. So I got Mississippi State winning the 8-9 matchup against Michigan State. I don't know why Michigan State is a 9 seed with 14 losses. I know we talked about strength of schedule and all that kind of stuff. They have a very strong strength of schedule, but you still lost 14 games.
It's the name on the front of the jersey.
That's probably what it is. And that's why I'm interested in the second round, because if Tom Izzo and Michigan State can pull this out, they kind of got the Miami Heat thing going on where they lose all regular season, and then when March comes, they scalp somebody.
Just ramp it up. Yeah, they ramp it up.
And they bring back everybody. So originally when the season started, I had them in the Final Four because they brought back everybody from the Sweet 16 run, lost in double overtime to Kansas State last year. But I just don't see it this year. But it would still be an interesting matchup because they're the one team that's as experienced as North Carolina, looking at this bracket.
Yeah, experience does count, because you sometimes, like, the lights shine big, because everyone saw Virginia lose as number 1 seed. They saw Purdue lose last year. These guys were alive when VCU and George Mason made their runs, so they know how important the one and done is. Tom Izzo has been coaching for a multitude of years, he should be able to keep his team, together. Not a lot of deep championship runs in his resume, though. No. Very Jim Boeheim kind of legacy, where it's just you're constantly putting out a good product.
All right. Well, you know what? Since you brought it up, what year did Tom Izzo win his only title?
Mateen Cleaves.
Yeah.
Man. With the forehead. I remember his shape-up was always crazy.
Mateen Cleaves, what, Mo Pete?
I'm going to say, man, that was like 06, 07? Somewhere around that time.
Final answer?
I think Mo Pete was going to leave with Kobe early when Kobe dropped the 81 in LA on Toronto. I think Mo Pete was in that game. So yeah, I'm thinking like 06, 07 maybe.
The correct answer is 2000.
Jesus, I was way off.
06 actually is a very relevant year for UConn, because the last team to repeat was the Florida Gators in 06 and 07. Joakim
but they brought everybody.
Yeah, they brought everybody back. Yeah,
and all those guys went to the league. It was like, was it Mike Miller?
I don't know if he was on that team. I don't know if he was on
Horford, Joakim Noah.
It was Horford, Noah, Corey Brewer.
Yeah, Corey Brewer with the headband.
Yeah, Torian Green was the point guard, and he didn't really have an NBA career.
Billy Donovan, head coach.
Yep. My, how times have changed, right?
Yeah, that's we talk about Butler making it back to back and losing. So yeah, I think the NCAA tournament it's like a purist. It's like the time, this 3 weeks out of the year where it's like literally anything can happen.
Right.
Your Definitely. Super Bowl champion is pretty much the team you probably picked them in the preseason. Your NBA champion, a bunch of people probably picked them in the preseason. Your MLB champ, world champ, a bunch of people probably picked them with really, these guys have the best left-handed.
Yeah, not a lot of people had UConn last year.
Yeah.
And they were a 4th seed. They finished 3rd or 4th in the conference last year. But right in the middle of the bracket, this is where I have the madness happening. It's in the West region. So I got Grand Canyon knocking off St. Mary's in one of those 12-5s that Mr. Logical was talking about.
Happens every year.
I got Charlotte beating Alabama in the 4-13 matchup. Like, not even Brandon Miller could save them because we saw what he did last year. I got New Mexico knocking off Clemson, and I got Nevada knocking off Dayton. So when you get to the second round, I was very tempted to take New Mexico over Arizona, but I'm gonna just let cooler heads prevail. I don't want to hold last year against
That's another
Arizona.
thing with the brackets. Like, you can pick that 11 seed or that 12 seed to go, but you're like, you know what? Are they really gonna? You're like, nah, I'm gonna go ahead and go
The one
chalk in the
thing I
second
will
round. Yeah.
say, the one thing I will say, and you'll appreciate this, I am excited about New Mexico, because they got my guy, ready? Jamal Mashburn Jr. playing for, you know who New Mexico's coach is?
I don't know that.
Richard Pitino, not Rick Pitino, Richard
Richard
Pitino.
Pitino.
Yeah, the son. So there you go.
That coach star player combination that can be your leverage.
There you go.
That can be the 30-point guy you need that just gets hot.
Yeah. So I got Grand Canyon going to the Sweet 16, losing to North Carolina, setting up the regional final in Los Angeles between UNC and Arizona. The rematch, or not the rematch, I shouldn't say the rematch. In Arizona, they have Caleb Love, who transferred from North Carolina last year, was a part of the national title run 2 years ago. So there you have it. There's your storyline for this bracket. Can we get to Caleb Love versus his former team? And if anybody knows anything about me in college basketball, you know that I don't trust Caleb Love. So whenever Arizona loses in this tournament, if they do, I'm on record, it's because of Caleb Love. He's like, what? 6'3", 6'4" Julius Randle. That's how I feel about him.
He's your guy.
Yeah, but the difference is that I actually like Julius Randle, but I just feel like I gotta be objective. I gotta be objective and tell the truth about him. I got no use for Caleb Love at all.
I can't tell. I can't tell the Julius Randle thing you just said. I can't.
Yeah, he even went to Kentucky.
Yeah, that's it.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe that's it.
If he went to Louisville, you wouldn't care about him at all.
No, but like I like
you
Julius
bring him up
Randle.
out of nowhere.
I like Julius Randle. I just gotta tell. I just gotta tell the truth, man. I just gotta tell the truth. So I got UNC coming out of the West to meet UConn in the Final Four. You know what I'm saying? Now, let's take it over to the South.
You got 2 number 1 seeds.
I got 2 number 1 seeds. Yep.
Cool.
And that's where it stops.
Okay.
So I go to the South. I'm interested in Nebraska in that 8-9 matchup with Texas A&M. Texas A&M is the number 1 offensive rebounding team in the country. So they're obviously trouble in the
Aren't you paying tuition to Texas A&M?
I am. And that's why you know that I'm objective, because I'm actually picking Nebraska ball to beat them. You know what I'm saying? I'm actually picking Nebraska ball. So to play Houston in the second round. A lot of people.
Nebraska has that Japanese kid.
They do. Mm-hmm.
He looks like he's one of those players that's like, hey, hop in his book bag, one and done kind of tournament. We're gonna ride and die with just step back.
Yeah, Houston better beware. Houston better beware. The last time we saw Houston, as I mentioned earlier, they were losing by 30. So Houston better beware. They try to play this 4-guard lineup, especially if they get A&M. They're not going to be able to play that 4-guard lineup because A&M is just going to bruise them on the boards.
Texas teams are physical.
Yeah.
Texas team has a bunch of dudes that played football, and then as freshman years in high school, they decided, I'm going to play basketball. Because Baylor's one of those teams that just I remember the year where they won it, even the female Baylor team, but like I remember when Baylor won it, they just were their physicality on the ball I think it just kind of resonates through Texas schools. They just have like a different kind of athlete.
Well, they also like
in
they know each other too. So you know what I mean? Like it's just like college football when Miami and Florida State play, Florida State and Florida, like a lot of these kids went to high school together. So when you get those Texas teams together, like
A
it's
lot
a
of
reunion.
those in-state tournaments, those AAU tournaments growing
Mm-hmm.
up. Like I said, I think the Texas physicality, like just the state of Texas, not the school, but like
Right,
the
right,
state
right,
of
right,
Texas,
right,
to include Houston, obviously. But I think that
right.
that physicality is like the thing that's going to push a lot of these teams over the edge, especially in the tournament. Because a lot of times the refs, I don't think the refs really want to get into it because it is a one and done. It's essentially a bunch of game sevens, and we know how the refs swallows the whistles in the NBA during game sevens.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of referees want to be like the reason why a team like Drake doesn't get a run because they're calling ticky tack fouls
Right.
because they understand like the magnitude of this. Like, listen, let them cook, let them do their thing, and we'll be here to keep it regulated, keep it I don't say keep it under control, but they're gonna allow some physicality because it's like, listen, these kids are playing for 40 minutes for the rest of their lives. Hashtag varsity blues. Like they're playing like that. Yo, this is it. This is all we got. We
Right.
lose, we're done. And I think the referees kind of allow that kind of energy to resonate. That's why a lot of these top schools lose. Like these upsets happen is because we talked about the superstar calls in the NBA and some to some extent to NFL games. College basketball, like, listen, y'all out here. You're the fifth ranked team. They're 12. You should be able to beat them. You shouldn't need my help.
Mm-hmm.
If he hacks you, I got you. But if he's bumping on the perimeter and you not passing the ball and you scrapping for the ball and it's a loose ball, I'm gonna let it go
Right.
because you have the advantage. They set it up like it's UConn. You're playing damn near 25 miles from your crib. You should be all right. North Carolina,
Yeah.
your number one seed. You should be all right. You should be able to handle Howard or Wagner. If they're scrappy, we're gonna let them scrap
And of
because
course,
you
speaking of
have the
Howard,
advantage.
we forgot to talk about Seth Towns.
Who's Jason Tatum's age?
Yeah, like he was in Jason Tatum's class, and here he is back in the NCAA tournament for the second year in a row.
His
Um,
insurance dropped and he's still in college basketball.
he's like the Black Van Wilder. You know,
Yo, I
you know
love
what I
that. When
mean?
anybody, Van Wilder, the best Ryan Reynolds film. Any film he's in, Van Wilder's number one. Everything else starts at two.
All right.
Don't at me.
So I know a lot of people are going to pick the Dukes, James Madison, over Wisconsin in the dreaded 12-5 matchup. I'm going with Wisconsin. I like the way that they're playing right now. They had a midseason stretch where they lost 5 in a row. They came through and beat Purdue the other day. So, that's the other odd thing that happened this season is that all the number one seeds lost in their conference tournament, which was kind of odd,
Is it
but
because they already knew they're going to be number one seeds?
no, I think that the other teams were just desperate to either make the tournament, like NC State, for example, who we'll get to in a second. Duke, I got Duke over Vermont. I got NC State over Texas Tech. Loving Burns right now. The way that he's playing, he dominated against North Carolina. He's ready for the big stage. But in the second round, I got them running into this machine called Kentucky. So Kentucky is in a place where they haven't made the Final Four since 2015. That would be the Karl Anthony Towns year. The 38, or they were started out 38-0,
That's when they
lost in the
lost to
Final
Comiskey
Four.
to
Yep, lost to
Wisconsin.
Frank the Tank.
Comiskey, yeah.
Yep. And but this is the first time since they won the title in 2012 that they've had the talent that we became accustomed to with Calipari at Kentucky. So, you started it off with like the John Wall year. They made it to the Final Four, shot 3 for 34.
So many NBA players came out of that
Yeah.
factory.
Yeah. Shot 3 for 34 from 3 in that West Virginia game, who went on to the national title game to lose to Duke. Then you had the 2012 squad with Anthony Davis, Anthony Kidd, or Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. And then this team is the next one as far as like the mega talent, uber talented team that The difference is they don't have an Anthony Davis type, like that level of superstar, but collectively, they either can lose in the second round or they can win the whole damn thing.
Win the whole at all.
Yeah. So then in your 7-10 matchup, Florida, Hogleston got hurt yesterday, and the injury that Mr. Logical won't let me send to him.
Nah, I'm not an injury guy. I'm a surgery guy. I'll watch the surgery. Don't send me an injury. I don't want to know how the sausage is made.
But in this region, I like the winner of the first 4 game, Colorado or Boise State, to make a run. Coach Leon Rice at Boise has them in the tournament 3 straight years for the first time in school history. Colorado has a guy by the name of Cody Williams that hopefully America gets a chance to fall in love with. He's
so
probably
Boise
going to
State
be
made it 3 straight years, and Washington State hadn't made it since before Klay Thompson.
Correct. But Cody Williams is going to be, and Kai Simpson. Kai Simpson, I like him a lot. But Cody Williams in particular is probably going to be a top 10 to 15 draft pick. So hopefully we keep an eye on him because, I know we always talk about how nobody knows these kids. Well, they ain't going to know him if he only plays in the first 4 either. So, this is a chance to showcase yourself because Marquette as the 2 seed, Tyler Kolek has a oblique injury. He's supposed to play. The pain is gone, according to Coach Shaka Smart. But I'm just going to go ahead and pencil in Colorado into the Sweet 16 and have them fall to the mighty Wildcats that we just talked about. I think Kentucky puts the extinguisher on NC State. And I think that Duke will beat Wisconsin, get to Houston. And then I think that's where it all ends for the Blue Devils. So I got Houston against Kentucky in the Elite 8 with Kentucky making the Final 4.
That's not a homer call?
No, that's not a homer call.
That's not a homer call?
Not a homer call. Not a homer call. But I will say, if you want homer, I will tell you, watch out for Western Kentucky in that 15-2 matchup.
Just because you get your master's degree from there doesn't mean
No, I'm being serious because, like I said, Tyler Kolek has the oblique injury. He's Marquette's best player. They still made it to the Big East championship game, so they're effective without him. But he'll be back. But Western Kentucky also, little known fact, they have 4 Power 5 transfers. Keep your eye out on that. They're not your typical 15 seed. So
when you wing Power 5 transfers, are they big men?
So when you think of the 15 seeds that have pulled upsets, it's just been teams that you take likely with fast guards or a big center like Norfolk State with Kyle O'Quinn, But in this scenario, you have guys with Power 5 experience is all I'm saying. I'm not saying that they're going to pull the upset.
The transfer portal probably has leveled the playing field up. Yeah, I think that's why a lot of we've had multiple conversations on the show about the NIL and how the coaches feel about transfer portal and NIL and the kids feeling entitled. But I think what it has done, it has given us more entertaining matchups because in basketball, like that 5-on-5 matchup, it can really be taken over by a couple of guys in the right mode. A couple of guys either a head-to-head matchup with your number 3 seed's best guard versus a number 14 seed's best big man, and it's a back and forth thing, or you happen to have, like you said, West Kentucky 3 or 4 Power 5 transfers that really make an impact. Mm-hmm. Because essentially the talent level, it's just the depth that kills the small schools.
Right.
That's why football games, that's why Rice probably is always going to lose to Texas, just because they don't run the depth. In tournament basketball, you're running out 7, 8 guys. Mm-hmm. If I got 4 guys that could have played at Tennessee, that could have played at Louisville, that could have played at Kentucky, but I have them here at Western Kentucky, and one of them catches fire, or our system is really like being, the coaching staff, they're kind of in line, like they're walking in lockstep.
Right.
I think you could catch a team that's expected to win sleeping, because it's like this 6'8" guy handling the ball is like, where did he come from? Like, well, he was on the bench at Kentucky. Now he's starting for Western Kentucky. That kind of
Right.
thing.
And so that's what I'm saying. Western Kentucky, I'm not picking them to pull the upset. I'm not picking them to keep it close. I'm just saying. So then we take it down to the Midwest region, who a lot of people think is the easiest region of them all. So Purdue is the 1 seed, obviously coming off the loss to FDU last year. I still don't trust Purdue. Not that they're going to lose to another 16 seed, but I just feel that
you can't do it 2 years in a
row. I just feel like in tight moments, they don't give Zach Edey the ball. They don't run the offense through him enough, especially considering that he's 7'4".
He moves like a statue, though.
He
doesn't
does.
move like fluidly.
He
like
does.
He just like if he was 6'4", he wouldn't be on the basketball.
He's got hands like Andre the Giant, but he but he also when Virginia lost to UMBC a few years ago, they came back the next year, won the national title. So no pressure, Purdue. No pressure.
They got the brakes beat off of them by UMBC. It wasn't even like a buzz. They was for like 17, 18
because they can't score. Like they still can't score. You know what I mean? Like that's just the thing.
Basketball blows my mind with how many
funny
teams
about
go into the season 40 minutes and you average 64 to 66 points.
And you know what's funny about that is that Virginia's head coach Tony Bennett was that last coach that took Washington. He was that last coach that took Washington State to the tournament. Yeah, so there you go, and that's how he got the Virginia job. But Purdue, they're going to have a tough matchup in round 2 either way, whether it's Utah State or TCU. I think they don't want to see TCU. Or I'm sorry, they don't want to see Utah State. Then you got a 5-12 that's going to be popular. The 30-3 McNeese State Cowboys going up against the original Cinderella, Gonzaga. So, Mr. Logical.
I'm listening.
Another one of my favorite NBA players went to McNeese. You know who it is? 1980s player.
1980s player?
We done with the 80s.
Oh, we done with the 80s. Oh, I can't stand. I'm so sick. I'm so sick of the internet. I love the internet. Watch the show.
It is world champion Joe Dumars. Went to McNeese State. Back when it was McNeese State.
He was supposed to go to school with Karl Malone.
Mm-hmm.
I remember hearing the story that him and Karl Malone was supposed to go to college together.
Yep.
Like they grew up together.
Right.
Like the plan was for them to go to school together. Yeah.
Right.
That would have been a dominant in college basketball team.
So a lot of people are going to pick McNeese State over Gonzaga. I'm not going to do it, but I will just shout out the return of Will Wade. For those of you that don't know who Will Wade is, he was the head coach at LSU that got caught up in the whole recruiting scandal and got fired. So here he is back at McNeese State, 30-3 on the season. I do have Samford, and for those of you who don't know where Samford is, it's in Birmingham, Alabama.
Samford, 53rd ranked out of 68 teams.
And they're going to beat Kansas, because they're going to play a little something we like to call Bucky Ball. I know Mr. Logical was familiar with Beamer Ball, but, Bucky Ball takes you back to the days of Arkansas 40 minutes of hell with the full court pressure. Kansas' best 2 players, Kevin McCullough and Hunter Dickinson, both coming off an injury. Both didn't play in the Big 12 tournament.
Are they the best ball handlers? Like are they the point guard? They bring the ball up. Like how are they gonna? Are they gonna?
So Dickinson is the big man.
By the press?
So Dickinson is the big man. 7 foot. McCullough is a 6'7" guard. But I think that the problem for Kansas is they just don't have depth. It's not a matter. Even if Hunter Dickinson and McCullough are at their peak health, I just don't think Kansas has enough depth to survive the onslaught.
So you got Kansas, who
I'm looking Kansas at the rankings. Going down.
I got 14. They're 14 out of 68.
Yep.
losing to Sanford 53 out of 6. I
Yep.
mean, 29-5. You got to admit that 29-5, that Sanford's overall record, they know how to win games because you can
Right.
lose. You can lose games, but closing out games, we've seen it. We're going to talk about like Akron and Kent State.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes a mental error here, a blunder here, brain fart here can cost you a game.
Mm-hmm.
So at
And Bill
29-5, they
Bill,
definitely put it together. But Bill Self, I mean, he's
he
essentially like a
he has a
legacy
history.
coach.
He's won 2 national titles, but he does have a habit. There's some Bradley and there's some Bucknell on his record, so keep that in mind. But then also I got Oregon taking out South Carolina. South Carolina with head coach of the year, Lamont Paris, and also obviously Dawn Staley on the women's side. So both SEC coaches of the year reside in Columbia, South Carolina.
So you got Oregon taking out South Carolina.
I
South
do.
Carolina 26-7.
Their big man has been out all year. I had his name written down, but I ain't got my notes, so I'm just doing this off the head now.
So we got Oregon at 43, 23-11. So they're 11 losses.
Yep.
It doesn't scare you off?
No, because a lot of that was when he was out. I think it's in Fale. Yeah, he was out, so he came back. They went off. They weren't even on the bubble. They came through and won the Pac-12 tournament. So impact.
And being presence and them being hot. Because like I said, that one and done aspect of this game does really change a lot. So yeah.
Yep.
Michigan State at 33 overall in 1914 still baffles me. Same thing with Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I just feel like they just want to get these teams in.
I got Creighton taking out Akron. I got Texas over Colorado State because I don't trust Virginia. I got Tennessee over St. Peter's, New Jersey stand-up. I'm sorry. But in the second round, the most conflicted game out of the whole bracket that I've had is Tennessee and Texas because which choke artist do you trust? So I decided to go with Tennessee.
Smart.
What I'm saying? I decided, no, he ain't there no more. He had Marquette.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I decided to go with Tennessee. But then that's where it stops. I got Creighton taking out Tennessee, and I got Purdue taking out Gonzaga to reach the Elite Eight, where Creighton upsets Purdue, gets to the Final Four. So now Final Four to wrap this thing up. I got UConn against UNC, and I have the Bucks stopping there. UNC is going to end the repeat chances of the UConn Huskies. And then just to let Mr. Logical know that I am not a homer, I have Creighton taking out Kentucky in the Final Four. So my national title game is North Carolina winning the national title against Creighton.
That sounds adventurous.
Hey, it's March Madness.
I like it. Like I said, always love your breakdown. So let's give you your flowers. I want a round of applause. Everybody watching the show. That was expert analysis by
one thing I forgot to say.
He's gonna give you some more information. I'm telling you.
Yeah. One thing I forgot to say.
Recognize this when you listen to this show. When Mike comes off the head with this stuff and this information, it's remarkable. A lot of these conversations, I just sit back and I'm enamored with the amount of information that he can retain through any conversation. We have a pre-meeting. He didn't bring up any of the stuff in the pre-meeting. He's not like he's regurgitating information.
Yeah, I'm mad. I typed up all my notes and I forgot to send them to myself. You know what I mean? So I didn't have any notes this time around because I had stats and stuff with me, but I just didn't.
So this is that 49 minutes of conversation was him without his notes. I want you to think about how difficult it is. So when you watching a TV show tomorrow and they got cars, they have monitors, there's 4 people up there saying the same thing. I want you to think about how this man went essentially off the top of his head for 49 minutes of what these stats, these names.
And I got 2 more things for you real quick.
And he has more. Shout out to Michael Wilson 25. Let's go.
I forgot 2 things to mention. So keep your eye on Duquesne because it's already been announced that their head coach is going to retire at the end of the tournament run. And this is their first time making the tournament since 1977. 1977. And then you'll appreciate this one. I wanted to say this one just for your benefit. So against Arizona, they're the 2 seed in the West, playing against Long Beach State. Their head coach is Dan Monson, which happens to be the guy that started the Gonzaga run. He was the head coach back in '99 that you were talking about.
Well, Matt Santangelo.
Yeah. But even better than that, they lost their last 5 regular season games. Long Beach State said, "You're fired" at the end of the season, and then he went and won the conference tournament. So it's going to be awkward for about another few days, right? Yeah. So there you go. UNC over Creighton. That's my pick. So then real quick, we'll finish off. There is a new field in Pittsburgh. We know that Russell Wilson was already Pittsburgh bound. Kenny Pickett said, "No way. I'm not backing up this dude. Get me out of here." So they sent them across state because, Pennsylvania is a whole lot of Philadelphia and Pittsburgh with Alabama in between.
Yo, it's far. It's a 5-hour drive. I make it every few months. I'm doing it this weekend.
Yeah, so he's over there, and now Mr. Logical is like, I don't even know why Pittsburgh brought Justin Fields in.
No clue.
Why do you feel that way?
I've heard this before from sports pundits, and it said if you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have one. Sometimes it's important for everyone to know their job first and foremost and to do their job. I give you this example. If you are at a sporting event, we'll say an F1 racing event, and a car crashes, that car is assigned to a team. Then you have emergency personnel who respond to the crash. If every team sent people out to the crash before the emergency people got there, it would just be convoluted and congested to the point where the people who are supposed to do their job can't get to it. If I have a starting quarterback that I just brought in and I'm paying him $1.2 million, why would I bring in another starting quarterback with essentially an expiring contract who's young, who's waiting on his 5th-year option, which first-round quarterbacks, the 2021 first-round quarterback NFL draft is not looking great. It's not looking great, but neither is Kenny Pickett's draft because Malik's benched, Pickett's traded, he's benched, Ritter's traded, he's benched. Who else got that drafted that year? It was like 5 of them. So bringing in Justin Fields, to me, I don't know if it benefits Pittsburgh as much as they hope, because you need something to go wrong for Fields to be a benefit to your team, either an injury to Russ or poor performance. So if he plays poorly, that means you lost some games. So it's like, I don't know what you're hoping for if you're Pittsburgh, because Russ, I think Denver's paying this salary. So I think Pittsburgh's paying $1.2 million. Denver's paying 37.8, somewhere around those lines. Well, Russ is like, if I play well, I want to get paid. I want an extension because I don't think Denver's on the hook for next year. They're not on the hook for 30 or 40 million next year. Well, if Justin Fields doesn't play, where does he go? Like, he has no leverage next year. So for him to go to a team next year, they got to pay him like real money. Baker Mayfield, if people use Baker Mayfield as an example, Baker Mayfield got that 5th-year option from Cleveland and then got shipped out. So he was getting like some chump change here and there. And now he's only getting $35 million or so from Tampa Bay, where if he still was in Cleveland, he would have had some of that Justin Herbert money. So I'm not sure where Justin Fields long term, how it fits for Pittsburgh. considering that, I think Russ is going to be good because Russ doesn't he doesn't run himself an injury. He's always available. They have a good tight end, good wide receiver. They're probably going to be able to pick up a wide receiver here in the draft, maybe a free agent, maybe turn a guy that's already on a roster into a Tyler Lockett kind of player for Russ who's like available in the slot. So I think Russ is going to be consistent enough to where you won't be able to get Justin Fields on the field. So I'm just not sure like the benefits for the team in regards to bringing Justin Fields in.
So these are my thoughts. Obviously, quarterback is a crapshoot. Justin Fields came into the league. He's shown flashes, but as I got into it with somebody earlier, everybody's been making excuses for Justin Fields because as much as he showed flashes, we have to tell the truth about his subpar play at times. Now, with that being said, if I'm the Steelers and I have the number 20 pick in the draft, there's no avenue for me to get into the top 5 to get one of these quarterbacks if I want one, right? Because you got Caleb Williams is going number 1. Washington's taking a quarterback. New England's more than likely taking a quarterback, or at the very least trading down to get a different quarterback, but still taking a quarterback. You got Minnesota potentially trying to come up to get a quarterback. Atlanta has their quarterback now. The Raiders still need a quarterback. Denver needs a quarterback. So there's a whole lot of congestion right there trying to get up into that top 5. Now, this is where you have to trust your scouting department and your player personnel people. Is Justin Fields better than a quarterback that you could get at number 20? Or is he better than a quarterback that if you are able to trade up somehow, he's better than an unknown commodity that's not named Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, or Drake May? So those are the questions that you have to ask yourself as a franchise. The second question is, do you think that Russell Wilson is a professional's professional? Now, I know, people bring up that Richard Sherman talked about how you couldn't even get a hold of Russell Wilson back in the day. You had to go through like his people to get to him. I would like to think that since that was 10 years ago, we've gotten a little bit better at that. So maybe if you're Pittsburgh,
I don't think so because in Denver, they said the first thing he wanted was like his own office, his own parking spot, and stuff like that. But I'm pretty sure a franchise quarterback probably gets everything.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I don't think that's odd. You know what I mean? But if you're bringing in someone like Justin Fields, it's not a talent thing. It's a in between the ears thing. It's a what's his confidence like thing. So I think that having him behind somebody like Russell, because remember we talked last week and I brought up, is it worth Seattle? This was before they got Sam Howell. Is it worth Seattle grabbing Justin Fields and having Geno as that bridge?
I thought that would be the case because Geno was the established starter in that system. Granted, they're bringing in a new coach, so that changes some things. But you have
Pittsburgh has a new offensive coordinator too, so like it's a whole new
Arthur Smith.
And it's Art Smith.
He's not super dynamic with his play call and so on. And we beaten that dead horse and revived it and beat it again. But with Justin Fields, if I'm in his camp, I'm thinking like I'm 10 years younger than this guy. And I saw something on First Things First. Essentially, after Justin Fields' rookie year, him and Russ have the same like record. I think Russ is 11-19. Justin Fields is 8-20. Touchdown interception ratio is pretty much the same, like 45, 46 touchdowns to like low 20s interceptions, yards per game. So if I'm Justin Fields, I'm looking at like, I'm 10 years younger than this guy. I offer a very dynamic aspect to my game by being able to run, being big, being athletic. So I don't know if Justin Fields walks in there like, yo, I'm definitely number two. It's very similar to Mac Jones and Cam Newton. When they drafted Mac Jones in New England, I don't think Cam Newton walked in like, I'm gonna be number two to this guy. Like I'm gonna be this quintessential mental bridge to help Mac Jones over the hump. And I don't know if Justin Fields is walking into Pittsburgh thinking like, oh, I'm gonna get tutored by this guy. But you got both of these guys in a new system. So how many reps can, like, you got to determine who's the number one guy. And if
Right.
you don't, you're giving, so you got to say you got 100 snaps.
Well, according to
Russ
all the
going to get
reports,
45.
according to all the
Justin got to
reports,
get 45. And then the third string guy got to get 10.
according to all the reports, Russell is the guy.
But that was the report with Pickett.
That was the report once they got Fields too. That came out as well.
But if you're Justin Fields, you walk in, it's like, I'm 5 inches taller than this guy. I'm 20 pounds, 25 pounds heavier muscle. I'm a better future prospect for
He
this
is,
team.
and I think that Pittsburgh
So
knows
how
that.
does he come in and just holds the clipboard? Considering how the narrative surrounding him in Chicago, like I don't know if he can. I mean, it's not a maturity thing; it's just a competitor thing. I'm a better option for you going forward than Russell Wilson. Right now, Russell can probably he's probably more mature. He's more seasoned. He's the veteran. But as far as like what he has over me, all he has over me is these theoretical intangibles. On the field, I'm a better option than
See,
Russell Wilson.
this is my problem. This is my problem. We talk about how these guys are entitled, and we talk about how these guys never get told that their shit stinks and everybody kisses their ass, right?
Correct.
This is an opportunity for Pittsburgh, and not that Pittsburgh's doing it per se, but they're just like, look, we got a vet in here that we want you to work with. We want you to learn some things. There's some intangibles. There's some of this that could rub off on you. Like there's something that your game is missing. But like I said, it's not talent. It's not talent because he's obviously way more talented than Russell probably ever was in some ways. But, it's right here. So, like, how do you overcome adversity? When things aren't going well, how do you not get frustrated? Or as a quarterback, how do you stay even keeled? You know what I mean? How do you galvanize? And like I said, we can get into all that.
Yeah, but Russ can teach him that as a number two quarterback too. That's what I'm saying. So if you're Justin Fields, you look at it like, okay, I can learn all that from him while being a starter because, in my opinion, like if I'm speaking in Justin Fields, like I am if you look around the league, there's not a lot of 30-plus-year-old starters with 20-something-year-old young starter level talented backups.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Rodgers with the Jets, his backup is Zach Wilson, whatever they figure out what his deal.
His backup is Tyrod Taylor.
But now because they brought in a veteran, but we'll use last year's example. Zach Wilson he could not walk into the building and say, I can beat Aaron Rodgers for his spot. Whereas I think Justin Fields physically can come in and beat Russell Wilson for the spot. So if you're just simply telling me as Justin Fields, like, you're going to sit behind him and learn what's in it for me. And I know it's not a selfish thing. It's like you only get a select number of years to play this game. You get about 12. If you're a quarterback, you get a 4 or 5 year peak where you're great. Like Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert. You'll see it with Josh Allen.
Yeah.
These guys, Lamar Jackson, you got about 4, 5, 6 years, maybe 7 to be considered top 3 to 5 in your position. It's at some point, with MVPs, you'll be 1. Mahomes has it. He's been shafted, not to say shafted. he hasn't had a great set of circumstances in Chicago for his first 3 seasons. So now you want him to kind of sit tight because Russell tears it up. No team is going to call next year and trade for Russell Wilson. So he's staying in Pittsburgh. So if Russell Wilson gives you 32 touchdowns and 7 picks next year, 4,400 yards, he's staying in Pittsburgh. I'm just throwing out a number. I just figured like 4,000 yards isn't abnormal for a quarterback. We'll say 4,000. We'll say 30 touchdowns, 8 picks, 4,000 yards, and he rushes for 2 or 3 more.
Well, I think that the thought behind it is Justin Fields needs a reset to get the Chicago stench off of him. That's number one. Number two, you haven't shown yet that you can lead a team on the field. As talented as you are,
he haven't shown it like number 86 in the NFL top 100 by his fellow players. Like, so people see the talent.
Yeah, people see the talent.
Was a couple years ago.
Yeah, but just like say for instance, like Jordan Love was talented. You know what I mean?
But there was already established starter.
No, I know. But they didn't come off of Aaron Rodgers, off of we got a talented dude waiting in the wings. They were like, hey, we're trying to win a championship now, whatever the case may be. Now, if you're Pittsburgh, you look at it like Atlanta to some degree, whereas Atlanta was like, we don't need Patrick Mahomes. We just need somebody that's better than Desmond Ridder. So when you're looking at Pittsburgh, who won 10 games last year, you got Cincinnati, Cleveland, Baltimore in that division. You're like, I don't need Josh Allen. I just need even kill, somebody that's not going to fold under pressure.
Yeah, but Russ, I think you'll still get those same 10 wins, except that a few of those wins, it might be 27-20, where like it's definitive. He threw, like he kept you guys in the lead the whole time, where with Kenny Pickett, it was like some last second drives here. The defense would get a scoop and score, a pick six, and you were just kind of winning games 20-17, 23-20, stuff like that.
Yeah, so like if I'm Pittsburgh, it was a 6th round pick that they gave up with the potential to become a 4th round.
If he plays like 47% of the season, some arbitrary number like that, yeah.
So like Pittsburgh is just looking at it like those old Wu-Tang movies, you are now watching a master at work. Watch this dude pick up on his habits, his work ethic, whatever it might be.
And then you just bench and rest halfway through the season, and you're going to go with Justin Fields?
Well, it depends on how the season plays out. I'm sure if Pittsburgh is sitting there at 3-4, that's a conversation. Or
Tomlin took a while to put Kenny Pickett on the bench. Granted, you had Trubisky and Mason Rudolph as your backups, and they were any better.
And also, Pickett was their 1st round pick.
It's if Justin Fields behaved,
and he was the local Pittsburgh dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he was a local Pitt guy. I remember I went to Pitt's spring game. No, I went to Pittsburgh during like their spring game, and I went to a bar right next to the stadium, and everybody was wearing their Pitt gear. This was the year after Kenny Pickett. Like that was but it was like it was a buzz, and people were there. They were wearing their Pitt gear. They went to the spring game. It was at Heinz Field when it was called Heinz Field. But him not wanting to just back up Russ, that would make more sense to me. I know it has still been kind of rough for him to have to deal with it, but having Kenny Pickett learn from Russ and then kind of bringing Kenny Pickett back.
But there's a difference.
Bringing Justin Fields is like Justin Fields probably has the expectation that he can start because this is my new start. Kenny Pickett was like, he has to look at himself and like, yo, I've thrown 13 touchdowns in 2 years.
Well, the problem is that if the reports are to be believed, Justin Fields specifically wanted to go to Pittsburgh.
I think that's cap.
Could be. I'm just saying.
Why would he want to go to Pittsburgh? What does Pittsburgh have that's beneficial to the quarterback.
Without trying to piss off Cups or being controversial, Pittsburgh has a winning culture. You know,
They
you know what I
do
mean?
have a winning culture. I give you that. They do have a winning
and
culture.
they also have Mike Tomlin, who is a black head coach on top of all that. So maybe to Justin Fields, it's like,
but on the field is Justin Fields. After Chicago traded for Keenan Allen, they had DJ Moore. They signed Swift out of Philly.
right.
And they have Komet, and I think Tanya might still be on the contract, but I don't know how that works. So you have
I
two
want to
types,
say he's gone. I
couple
want to
of
say
wide
Tanya's
receivers.
gone.
The number 1 pick, the number 9 pick. How is Pittsburgh a better landing spot for him saying, like, yo, I want to stay here? Because staying in Chicago was better for
For
Justin
some reason, I
Fields than
thought he
him
got
going to
traded or
Pittsburgh.
something. No, I think that
So that's why I don't believe the reports of him wanting to go to Pittsburgh, because
well,
if I'm
you
going to
got
go
to
somewhere and be
remember.
a backup, like
Think about it like this, though. You got
I
to
would
think
go to
about
New
it.
York. New
Well,
York is probably in the same boat as Pittsburgh as far as talent
you got to
wise.
think about it. You got to think about it from what's available and who's interested. So Minnesota went out and got Kirk Cousins. I mean, I'm sorry, Atlanta went out and got Kirk Cousins.
He should have been banging on the table from the beginning. If he wanted to leave Chicago, he should have been banging on the table to send me to Atlanta.
I agree,
Because
but maybe he didn't want to go home.
I do not believe that a guy from Atlanta or Georgia in the surrounding suburbs would choose to go play 8 or 9 home games in Pittsburgh when it gets cold as shit up here in this lake effect. We've seen the Buffalo games. We've seen how cold it gets in Ohio. We've seen how cold it gets in Cincinnati. You have a quarterback who likes to run, doesn't throw it a lot. You mean to tell me he would rather have
weather, right?
You would rather play 8 or 9 games in Pittsburgh versus 8 or 9 games in Atlanta with Bijan Robinson, Drake London,
A dome,
Kyle Pitts, and the number 8 pick, where they could have got another wide
and
receiver.
your boy Mooney.
Mooney just went there, and they just got Ray McLeod from San Francisco. They are loading up the offense to just go, 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 go. There's no way he saw that and say, you know what? I want to go to Pittsburgh with Najee Harris, who couldn't hit a hole with a dump truck.
Maybe him and Pickens have a relationship because Pickens went to Georgia, so maybe they have some kind of
Pickens has an attitude every single week. I don't believe the reports that he wanted to go to Pittsburgh over any other of the 30.
No, but you got to remember, he didn't have 31 options. That's the problem.
But if you went to a team, like I'm saying, if you're going
if he was like, I want to go to Buffalo, like Buffalo ain't going to trade for him
because they signed Trubisky early. Buffalo makes more sense than Pittsburgh because
Buffalo,
Josh Allen plays
never see the field.
Josh Allen plays the same way Justin Fields does.
Yeah, but Josh Allen is there for the next 8 years.
Russell Wilson is not going to get scrambled. Russell Wilson barely misses. I don't think he's ever missed a game because of injury.
Oh, I know he did. He had the was it a thumb or something? No, he in Seattle.
He had a couple of games with the thumb. He should have missed 5 weeks. I think he missed 2. That's what I'm saying. He should have been out for 5 weeks. He came back in 2. He struggled for 3 weeks, and then he kept going. So, once again, if I'm Justin Fields' camp, I'm like, yo, dog, Russell's not leaving the field. He's not scrambling. He's not going to take a hit. He'll take the sack and lay down and punt it, go to the sideline. But he's never going to.
Maybe that's what Justin Fields needs to see. Maybe to Pittsburgh, it's like the things that you're saying right now. Maybe Pittsburgh is looking at it like, this is what you need to see to preserve yourself. And
I get that point, but I'm talking about the report saying that he wanted to go to Pittsburgh. Like, I can go to school and learn. I don't want to go and just play in Pittsburgh. If that's the case, he could have gone to Atlanta and sat behind Kirk Cousins and learned, and then gone to another team. Why am I going to go to Pittsburgh? I think the reports are just sugarcoating because I think Chicago had better deals in place, and they thought they were going to get the next one.
Well, I think Chicago felt like
for
the fact that Atlanta
probably offered a deal and they didn't like it. And
for
they
the
were like,
fact
you know
that
what? We're going to
Atlanta
pamper
ended
and
up
go
with
get
for
Kirk
the fact
Cousins.
that Atlanta ended up with Kirk Cousins makes me think that Atlanta said, what's the next step to get us the closest?
Justin Fields would have been the next step to get you the closest.
I don't believe that.
It would have been cheap. First, it would have been cheaper than $180 million
It would have.
for the next 2 years. So
Yeah, it would
you would have
have.
been able to figure out is do we have, because you got to think about this. Kyle Pitts is going to be up for money. Drake London is going to be up for money. Bijan Robinson is going to be up for money after the next 2 seasons.
But London and Pitts are on evaluation period right now.
That's what I'm saying. So right now you got Kirk Cousins for 4 years. I think it's pretty much like a 2-year deal.
Yeah.
I would have rather had Justin Fields for that 2 years, because at the end of that 2 years, I know fully I'm doing a full rebuild. So I could trade Pitts, I could trade London, I could not re-sign Pitts, whatever the case may
Atlanta
be.
might be viewing it like, look, like we talked about it all last season. Look at that division. So in Atlanta's mind, if we get Kirk Cousins, theoretically we could be the favorite in this division. If we get Justin Fields, we could be the favorite if he got his shit together, which we don't know if he has his shit together.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I would have taken the guy in his mid-20s with something to prove over the guy in his mid-30s coming off an Achilles injury.
And then you also always talked about how
you need more leg power to throw the football.
But you also talked about, like, and I don't know if teams think about this for real, but you talked about like sending them back home. And
But he's not a behavioral problem. Jalen Carter had pending stuff from behavioral issues at Georgia, and I was like, I don't know if you want to keep him around. So that's different.
Well, he might not have behavioral issues right now, but if you put him back home, you don't know if he's hanging around the wrong people or what. Like,
but he would have been hanging around the wrong people in Chicago. If you
maybe he was, we don't know.
We would have known. We would have known. We would have known. We know everything. We know John Morant's in Memphis, Tennessee. He's from South Carolina. We knew what he was doing in Denver. Like, we had CC cam footage of all the money on the floor. We would know. Justin Fields, think about how many people you know who are 6'4", 225, 230 pounds in your lifetime that have walked in your life. Mm-hmm. Those people stand out.
Right.
So NFL quarterbacks stand out. So if he was hanging out with the wrong crowd in Chicago or in these environments, you would have known. I just feel granted, I'm just speculating. I think Chicago had deals in place, botched it, and got bailed out when Kenny Pickett decided, I don't want to compete with Russell Wilson. Because if they don't trade Kenny Pickett, Justin Fields is still on their roster, and they got to figure out where we sending him. Mm-hmm. Because we're taking Caleb Williams. They're trying to act all clandestine and like they have like this whole secret Jason Bourne kind of conversation. We all know you messed up when you took Trubisky. You passed on Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. You're not going to do it again. We all knew that. There was no smoke and mirrors that you're going to fool anyone with saying, we're going to keep. No, you're not. We knew you were getting Caleb Williams. They should have just been upfront. Like, sometimes it's like, I like to play poker. And sometimes you can slow play your hand. But if I'm holding pocket kings and the flop is king, king, 7, you know what? I got time to bullshit. I'm betting big, and you can trust it. You can think I'm bluffing or not. But I'm going to get what I want out of this. I'm not going to be like, oh, Chicago tried to slow play their hand, and it ended up backfiring because they could have gotten a couple of picks out of Atlanta because they have a young core of players. Think about the age of all their players. Think about Green Bay and the success that they had with the young quarterback and the young core. See if it works. You got to, like, LaFleur had a couple of years as a coach already with Aaron, but you got the young quarterback with the young wide receivers. Yo, let's see if this works. Atlanta could have replicated that. Yes, the division is up for the taking. I feel like they would have been in a better position to do that. I'm trying to think anybody else was available. Arizona was off the table. If he was going to be a backup, I think Seattle would have been a good move because Gino's contract expiring, so he's going to go on his way. Maybe he takes over there. And they play similar. And Gino had the same kind of rise where he started out one team, then he went to another team, and it was like he was getting shafted and people thought he wasn't any good. I think he would have gotten more from
But everything that you
Gino as
said
far
about Russell
as
applies to
mentorship.
Gino. Like, as far
Russell,
as like, I'm more talented than him.
I don't think Russell believes that he fell off because we can look at Sean Payton. The thing
How he fall off? His last album was The Chronic.
Yeah. Like, that's what I'm saying. I think Russ looks at it like, oh, my last two head coaches were terrible. And my last three head coaches were terrible. Two got fired, and one is Sean Payton, who's proven nothing without Drew Brees. So I think he can walk into the room like, yo, I'm still nice. I beat Kansas City in Kansas City. I came back from 21 down against Washington. I did all these things.
And still lost.
While my
coach,
the
other way around. Washington came back from 21-3.
Yeah, my bad. So while my coach publicly doesn't like me, I still persevered. I'm 5'10". I won a Super Bowl. Like, I'm that guy. I don't think Russ is going to be in the market or in the position to want to teach Justin Fields. He's like out here like, yo, I'm still that guy. I'm light-skinned Tom Brady. I'm playing 10 more years. I don't think Justin Fields is in a position where he's going to get a lot of information from Russ. Russell will clap it all up, but he has people in his corner that can tell him it wasn't your fault that the last 3 years didn't go well. Because you've had 3 terrible coaches. Gino can be like, yo, dog, this league eats you up. This is how I got over it. I think it would have been better for him. But yeah,
that's why I brought it up.
I think Chicago overplayed their hand. Chicago overplayed their hand, and it just so happened that Kenny Pickett, not wanting to compete, goes to Philadelphia where he won't play. So
yeah, exactly. So but this is why sports is sports, and this is why we love it. Because
100%.
It's always surprising. It's always unorthodox. It's always out of the blue. So, check us out on Thursday. Might be doing a little baseball preview.
Tournament recap for sure. We're going to get a couple games
recap for sure. We'll be watching the tournament live. Good night, Grandma. It's time for you to lay down. Appreciate the support.
Go ahead and get your Paramount Plus accounts real quick. Make sure you cancel it.
TNT, True TV, it's going down. You know what I'm saying? Like, review, subscribe. It's all free. He is the even kill Mr. Logical. I am your unorthodox statistician. 2-5. We are Sports Reports is ordered.
Let's go.
Don't forget it. Biggest movement since Dipset. Love you, America. Peace.